Well, that is our theme song all month long. As we have said for many years here, thankfulness leads to thankfulness. What you think about is what you'll focus on. If you can think about all your many blessings, you will be thankful. Charles Dickens, the man who wrote the Christmas Carol, once wrote out, he said, if people will focus on their blessings, which are many, rather than their troubles, which are few, they will find their life to be filled with blessings. And it is a great thought when we come into the month of Thanksgiving that we can focus on the month of November about thanking the Lord. Well, let's have Stephen, our song leader for the night, come forward and lead us in our song of Thank You, Lord. Here we go, sir. We are so very glad that you joined with us tonight, and we are looking forward to a great service here together at church, and so grateful for our young people. I was talking to one of our other young people today saying, hey, you're up next, got to get you on the list to be another song leader. Just trying to get our young men to be able to be song participants. Someone can say, Pastor Joe, I love this new idea we have here of getting these young people to do this. It's not new. So what do you mean it's not new? I said, when I was a kid, this is where I learned to song lead. I was 10 years old. Said on a Wednesday night, Jose Rabi, who was the song leader, got stuck at work. And so pastor said, you're up. And walked up and led the songs. And then the next time it was my friend Nathan. He led the songs. And the next time after that it was Miguel. And the next time after that it was John. And all these different young men. And by the way, many of those young men are still song leading in their churches today. I was talking with Dustin, who grew up in our church the other day, and he was talking about how he and his wife were working in their children's ministry in Pennsylvania, and then talking with Dayton the other day about, I don't know if many of you heard Dayton, who came to our church from here, just got married last month. Very, very excited for his family and how he's in church and different things. It's so great to see many of these young people who grew up here and these truths to transfer, it does make a difference. And so it's something we do want to try to promote with all these young people, and looking forward to God doing great works in each and every one of their lives. How many of you have gotten the time change Sunday blues? It hit you this afternoon. How many hit you this afternoon, to be honest? All of a sudden you start to feel like, wait a second, something's off. It's not there. Wait a minute. How many of you enjoyed this morning's change Sunday? How many found it enjoyable? I had a couple people come. I had someone message me this afternoon and say, Pastor Joe, like, do other churches do this? Like what? Where? I had someone message Pastor Joe, these novel ideas you come up with, they're super cool. You and Pastor, if I said, listen, let's be clear about this. There is nothing new under the sun. There's just a lot of great ideas, and when we see a great idea, sometimes we'll bring it in. I had a couple people come to me and say, Pastor Joe, we'd like to do this all the time. And I had someone come to me and say, Pastor Joe, never do this to me again. And so, listen, we always have these ideas. And someone came and said, Pastor Joe, how do we make something like that? Like, for instance, how many like the idea of 5 p.m. on Sunday nights? How many like that idea? Okay, great. 6 weeks ago, we announced here in church that if you liked that idea, you needed to come tell me or Pastor. As of this morning, 11 people have talked to me and 2 people have talked to Pastor. There are way more of you here. How many know that we just get busy? How many know that we actually really, as a staff, want your opinion? We really do. The other day we were talking with someone about something. It was Dave Comstock. We called up Dave, and we and Pastor really believed we had a great idea, and we called up Dave Comstock. What do you think? And Dave said, I'm not for that. I mean, if the Lord tells you to do it, you should do it. But I'm telling you, I'm not for it. Pastor said, and it's done. I looked at him and said, okay. And one of the other men said, well, why is that? I said, well, Dave knows that area. And if Dave says it's a bad idea, it's off the table. It's not even a discussion. He said, we have wise counselors in the church for a reason. So we want your opinion. So if you would like that 5 o'clock idea, please let Pastor know. If you like the Sunday school idea, please let him know. How many noticed the new Sunday school format that we've been doing the last few weeks? We have the discussion times. Do you know how that happened? Lots of people talking with Pastor. We want to see what God puts on your hearts. This way we can make those connections together. So thank you for being a part of it. Next Sunday night is 5 p.m. because next Sunday night will be our Outreach Sunday night. And we are so grateful for having a church that loves outreach. So next Sunday night, we will be having an Outreach Sunday night service. Please make certain that you are here for it and that you come ready. We've had more and more families calling the church asking for food. In fact, I went into the church food pantry today, and it is the lowest the church canned food pantry has been in a month. And last month, it was really low. And it just keeps getting low. But, this week we had a family call up. They've never been to our church before, never heard of our church before, except one of you told them about us. And they called up and said, hey, we have food to deliver. And they showed up in a brand new red Mercedes. That's pretty cool. And they dropped off a bunch of food, hundreds of dollars of food for the church. And we gave it all away before Sunday morning. We have a wonderful church here. We have a wonderful church full of giving people. Thank you for helping us help other people. Let's continue to keep doing that, as we know this world will need more and more of Christ in these next few years, in any way we can find it. To the person who let the Deer Hunter or Association 2 years ago know about our church's food pantry, I believe it was a connection through D. That D let a friend know, and a friend let another friend know, and another friend let another friend know. And they came by last week and dropped off 250 pounds of venison for our church to give away to families, which we gave away 150 pounds in 7 days. There isn't a lot of need out there. And guess what? There's still a lot of opportunity for us to look at families and tell them the love of Jesus is real, and it's real here. And so we are trying to promote the gospel. We want to continue to promote the gospel, continue to help us as we do that. Next Sunday night, Outreach Sunday, we hope to have you come out and join with us. We'll have 4 different areas you can join with. If you haven't heard yet, we have soul winning, door-to-door visitation. You can go out and hand out some door flyers. We have care visits. That's where you can go visit Elsie Arnold. How many remember faithful Elsie Arnold of the church? Love Elsie. Go visit Elsie at her assisted living care center and go tell her that God loves her, or one of 10 of those people we have. Care visits also include going and following up on the new visitors. How many knows we've had a lot of visitors in the church in the last month? We've been doing our new move-in mailers. How many saw the new move-in mailers on the back door there? And we've had people say, hey, listen, I got your mailer. I want to come to church. Because isn't it amazing that when the almighty dollar isn't as powerful as it was before, all of a sudden people start reaching back out for God? And so once again today, we had 2 visiting families in our church this morning. So thank you for continuing to invite out families. Let's continue to see that happen. So if you want to follow up, that's a care visit. Follow up on those. Some of our families who ride our transportation and bus ministry, you can follow up visiting them. And then our third opportunity is food pantry deliveries. Last month, I felt bad for poor Bob. Bob and Ruth out there, they're loading their car up. And Bob says, okay, we're good to go. I said, that was half. Bob goes, no, it's not. Well, yes, it is. He's like, we're going to, okay. So listen, come on, help out one of these groups. And then there's the fourth group, the prayer group, was we said we need prayer. So come here, go meet in pastor's office. We start off all in the fellowship hall. We have a sermon, we have a song, and then we head right to those 4 different groups. You can go, if you're in the prayer group, go right to pastor's office, start praying for our community, praying for our country, that God will bless. Those are some of the brief announcements. I will remind you of the other things coming up. Next Sunday is honoring veterans and Sunday morning. Tuesday the 22nd, Prayer Pie Praise Preaching Service on that Tuesday night. And then December the 11th, our Christmas musical. And we're putting a lot of work into it. In fact, tonight after church, there'll be a practice for that Christmas musical. And that is Sunday, December the 11th at 11 a.m. So if you have friends and family, in fact, we printed off the flyers. Those are on the back table. Go ahead, look over those flyers, give them out to people. Put them in different places. They have QR codes on it so people can scan it, see all the information. We want people to come out to these events. So start giving out the invitations now so that we can try to reach our community and try to get them interested in Christmas. Because there is no Christmas without Christ. So let's get them thinking that way now. Well, let's go ahead and let's have a word of prayer. Then we'll have our offering time. Right now, let's go ahead and dismiss the discipleship class to the back, and then we'll have our prayer, and then we'll have our offering time. Caleb, as you get ready to lead, been so grateful for Caleb, doing such a great job in junior church lately, helping out with all them. Could you lead us in a word of prayer for our offering time today? Caleb turned to me this morning in the middle of Change Sunday. I was running around taking care of things. I wasn't in the teen class for most of it. And Caleb looked at me and said, I think this is one of the best teen classes we've had in a while. I said, I wasn't in the room. He said, yeah, I know. It was one of the best teen classes we've had. And I think he missed the part where I said I wasn't in the room. He's like, the discussion was great. I'm like, and as I turned to my wife, I said, what a blessing it is that we have young men in our church, and Josh and James. Yes. We have young men in our church, just several. Eddie, Thomas. I think of all in a world where young men don't exist in churches. Or they're few and far between. What a great blessing is that as a associate pastor, I can turn and say, hey, listen, you guys, I'm going to be covering things. It's going to be a little confusing for some people, so I need you two to cover it. And they had a visitor in class, okay, and they still, without a beat, just ran the class, had fellowship, and they learned and they grew. What a great opportunity and blessing for our church's future. Caleb, lead us in a word of prayer, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to be at church tonight, and please help with the Christmas list of Jesus for everything to be fulfilled as it just came out today. And please also help with next week as an outreach Sunday so we can reach people and tell them about the work of God and invite them. And please help for all the practices for the Christmas musical to go well so it can be very well for people if they are listening to it, that they'll have a good experience and you learn about Jesus. And also, thank you for the blessing that we can give more money to our ministries, even though it's tough now to raise money because of inflation. And thank you that we had Change Sunday, because a lot
Wonderful. Thank you, Marty. Always grateful for Marty and her great work with the church. Tonight we will have that Christmas cantata practice, musical practice. Someone asked me a couple years back, Pastor, why don't you call it a cantata anymore? Because no one knows what a cantata is. I said, and I understand that in church world there are church terms. I call them that, church terms. But the Community Baptist Church, since its inception, our pastor said, we want to be welcoming to people outside of the church. There's a lot of church terms we need to teach to the outside world, and some church terms they don't care about. They don't understand justification. That's a term I want to teach them. Some of the other terms, we'll just get them as they come along. So we use the word musical now to get people, that's a term most people have generally heard. So we'll get that form on that. Sometimes, well, Pastor, what we technically do isn't a musical, it is a cantata. I said, yes, you are technically correct. But when I say come to a church cantata, they're concerned about, are they supposed to wear robes or something? So get them set on that. Well, here's the paperwork for you guys today. If anyone didn't get a paper, let you know. How many of you remember what tonight is? Tonight is the Children's Workers Handbook training. Now, everyone in this room, as far as I can see, has already filled out one of these papers before. Or you've done one of these papers before. So let me explain this for you. Don't fill out anything right now. Well, yes, sir?
This is a renewal. I'm not renewing it.
Yes, you'd have to do the paper. So yes, you do this one here. So I'll take that, sir. So listen, if you are a children's worker, this is for you. If you're not a children's worker, but you come to the Community Baptist Church, you don't need to fill the form out, but the class is for you. If you would like to be a children's worker, or maybe say, Pastor Joe, I don't remember reading this. What is this now? Susan has the best thing on this. 20 pages. 20 pages. You don't remember reading that? Here, you need to come get one. So I have about 4 up here. I don't print a ton of these every year because most think like Susan Grace just completed hers. We're actually going to give her a round of applause in just a second. She just passed her test and everything. Susan Thompson did hers in the spring. But does anyone need one of these? Say, Pastor, I would kind of like to look at it as you walk along. Okay, I got a couple people. Josh, come here real quick. Grab these from him. Let Josh, you can go and hand them out to the 4. I'll let Josh hand them out. Rick, you've already done enough work for the day. Let you have a seat. You can sit down for this one. I got 4 of these right here. You can look through it as we go through it. I am not going to go line by line, but I am going to kind of go through this just a little bit. Do it out only to adults, Josh, if you don't mind. Let any adults who need it have it together there today. So, children are important here at the Community Baptist Church. They've always been. They're our future.
Amen.
And we believe in the importance of protecting our children. On that line, like I said just a minute ago, we're so very grateful whenever anyone completes their children's training. So tonight, our last 2 completion people are Susan Grace and Susan Thompson. Now, Susan Thompson, I already gave her paper this in March, and I didn't tell her that we do this in November. So Susan Grace, Susan Thompson, please stand up. Everyone give them a round of applause for completing their training. They did so very well on their training. Both of them passed. Very, very proud of them for their good passing grades. Now, I have good news and bad news. Good news is that this training, I have some new points in there, some things we need to fix, some things that sometimes get forgotten, some things that need to happen. There's some great future for the church. We've seen a lot of young people saved here in the last few weeks. We've seen a lot of people move forward, and we've seen some great things as the workers of the Community Baptist Church have gotten together. Now, some of you, I know you've been flipping that paper over, and you're looking for the second part of the paper I handed you a minute ago called the Standards of Excellence. I didn't give it out tonight because I'm not teaching that tonight. I'm teaching that in 2 weeks. So you're going to have to wait. So you can keep flipping the single sheet of paper over. It's not going to magically appear, okay? But tonight's the renewal. We're going to talk about all the Children's Workers Handbook. The renewal paper we just handed you says you agree with everything we're teaching tonight. Now, the bad news is is for some of you, it's been 4 years since most of you have taken the sexual abuse training prevention video. How many remember doing that sexual abuse training video? It's the least favorite training video we do here at the Community Baptist Church. And we do things on like a couple-year rotation. If you have not done that video, this is the year. And so I'm going to be sending out email links here this next week, and you are required to do it within the next about 14 days if you'd like to do it. Susan just took it this week. It's not the most fun video to watch. It's usually a little frustrating because anytime you have to watch a video where they talk about you hearing the sentences about little children being sexually assaulted, makes me sick. And when you have to watch a training video, this is about 30 to 40 minutes long. I think it's 28 minutes long. Maybe it's 35. I can't remember. As a staff, our video is like 3 hours. So they offer to let all of you watch our video or what they call the volunteer video. You can thank Pastor you get to watch the shorter one. But ours is much longer. It's even worse than the video you watch. But it does help us so we can understand the world we're working with. How many, after watching that video, it did help you understand that there's a lot of kids we're working with who may have this have happened to them? How many understand that? That's a staggering fact that really we never thought about. So that is something we're going to be sending out this week. So once you fill out this paper you're filling out here says, 1, you agree to the Children's Workers Handbook. 2, you will follow the rules of the handbook. 3, you allow us to do a state, federal background check on you. We do that on every single new worker, and we do that every other year on every existing worker here at the Community Baptist Church. And then the 4th thing it says is it allows that you will do a training. Last year, as you remember, I did 2 weeks of Children's Workers Handbook. Week 1 was this lesson with some slight altercations that we are going to do tonight. And then week 2, I did the lesson instead of having you watch the video. How many remember that last year? I did a different session, not on sexual abuse, just on working with children. We'll do different things like that throughout the years. But this year, it is time for us to do that video training again. So those are kind of my quick updates. Let's go and let's read a Bible verse real quick. Mark chapter number 10, verse number 14. Who would like to read this verse today? Kyla?
When Jesus died, he was much displeased and said unto them, Suffer the little children to come unto me, forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of God.
It's the truth. The kingdom of God is for children. It's for the faith of children. Except you have the faith of a little child, you cannot enter into the kingdom of God. It's just the truth. And Jesus in this story, many of you remember it, Jesus is there, and there are children who want to see Jesus. And the adults go, listen, this church, it's for adults. The little kids, you can get Jesus next time. And Jesus goes, no. You don't stop the little kids. Little kids are the most important thing to me. In fact, I was listening to an interview yesterday of a pastor, and he was talking about some of the evils that are happening in the world today. He said, listen, I think some of us, because we are trying to be so nice in our Christian faith, that we need to be a little more like Jesus. He said, because, like Prop 3 in the state of Michigan, it's a terrible thing for children. Just a terrible thing for children. It is just beyond horrible. And some said, well, listen, where is Jesus talking about? Well, Jesus talks about in the Bible that if anyone harm a little child, it'd be better for a millstone to be hung around his neck and him to be thrown in the sea. So listen, Jesus was always kind. There came a moment he said, you touch a little child, it'd be better they drowned you alive than you have to deal with God. Listen, God makes it very, very clear that we must protect children. A church must be a safe place for children. So let's look at the 3 points for our lesson tonight. The 3 most important parts of the children's ministry of the Community Baptist Church. This is a new part for tonight. This is brand new for this year, so let's focus on this. Here's the 3 parts that the children's ministry, the 3 most important parts, and you're going to write these down. Number 1, first most important part, it must be scriptural. It must be scriptural. Listen, if we want a lot of kids, today, me and Jeff, we work on the Wednesday night bus. We can go pick a bunch of kids up, tell them we're going to take them to Chuck E. Cheese, Church can pay for it. We'll fill the bus. What do you think, Jeff? Think we can fill the bus in 45 minutes? Easy. Take them to Chuck E. Cheese, drop them off, let them go. If it's about numbers, listen, I'm good with kids. I really am, okay? I can make kids show up. We can just have fun. But the first and foremost part of children's ministry here at the Community Baptist Church is it must be scriptural. Amen. It must be Bible-based. It must have a biblical purpose for everything. Everything. Every part must have a biblical purpose. There's a lot of churches today that they want to have everything outside of a biblical purpose. And I'm not opposed to it. Listen, I like softball leagues. I love playing softball. I don't think I could play it now, but I love softball leagues. Put me and Josh out there, we'd have some fun for about 5 innings, and one of us would pull a hamstring, the other would pull our back or something like that. It'd be great, though. It'd be a great fun time till it happened, right? But listen, when we had a softball league here at the Community Baptist Church, and we played in one, every single time as we had a softball league, we started off with prayer, and Pastor had a devotional every week. We used it as a chance for it to be scriptural. Everything at church. How many have ever been here to our mobile food distributions? Every time. Prayer. Every time. Pastor shares a Bible verse. Every time. Listen, has to be scriptural. Children's ministry, just the same. This week I was out, saw a toy for the kids' children's ministry for Master Club, picked it up. We had did some money. That's great. The other day, Virgil called me, hey, we got to get some prizes for the bus ministry. Great. But everything has to have a scriptural purpose behind it. Let everything that we do have a Bible verse attached to it. Hey, we're giving out Snacks Day. You know why we're giving out Snacks Day? Because the Bible says that we are to be ye kind one to another. Everything we do must have a scriptural reason for it. I'll be honest, this is a concern I have. I know some of you right now, you're in different places, so focus in for a second. I hear a lot of movie quotes in children's classes these days. In our church and in other churches. It's concerning. It's beyond concerning. The other day I was telling my wife, a friend of mine, he's a pastor of a good church, and he and his wife went and they did their like, you know, we have our fall fun fest on Wednesday nights, and we let the kids dress up and all that stuff, and he and his wife dressed up as superheroes, which I'm perfectly fine for, but you shouldn't dress up as superheroes that are inappropriate. I never watched the TV series that they were dressed up as, but the moment I saw it, I was like, whoa. And I understand, like, it became a controversy. People were like, he said, well, listen, I'm not promoting the TV show. Listen, if you're dressing like the TV show, you're promoting it. We live in a world today where we've forgotten that holiness matters. Be scriptural. I'm not opposed to Batman. Me and Walter are both Batman fans. We both love Batman. I love it. I grew up with my parents getting me the golden age of Batman world, right? I love it. But my conversation with children shouldn't be Batman-centric. Should be Bible-centric. Let's promote the Bible. That doesn't mean that if a kid says Batman, I can't talk about Batman. I'm fine with that, right? But understand, there might come a day when I can no longer talk about Batman. How many understand that world's coming? We're getting into a world where they're polluting much of the things that used to be good. So I have to give a caveat now when I say things. How many heard the caveat I gave a minute ago? I grew up during the golden age of Batman. I don't watch the new Batmans. The old ones, that's the ones I grew up. The back in the day when they were funny and cute, and I had my kids with the old golden Supermans, where Superman was smiling, and hey, he went to church on Sundays. What a novel thought. Scriptural. Everything must be scriptural. A Bible verse for everything. Well, Pastor Joe, I don't know a Bible verse for everything. That's a problem. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may be given answer unto every man that answereth you. That the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. Hey, the Bible wants us to be able to give an answer unto every man of the reason of hope that dwells within us. Have Bible verses. Well, how do I get those? You read your Bible. And then when you find a good verse, you mark it down, you write it down, you take it with you, and you carry it around. Talk to kids about the Bible. The Bible's powerful. Children's ministry must be scriptural, not at the exact same time. That doesn't mean we can't play dodgeball. Okay? We can play dodgeball. We can have fun. Hey, listen, we can play games. We can play blue volleyball. We can drink pop. We can have pizza. Those are all good things. And by the way, we need to have those things because kids want to have fun. But as important as it is that the children's ministry church is scriptural, it's also important that it be safe. I grew up in the 90s. 80s and 90s. That was my generation, right? And I grew up in a church with a pastor who promoted these ideas. Our church was ahead of the curve on children's training, all the different things. I have churches now 3-4 times our size calling us up, asking us for our children's workers' handbooks, even now. And they're going, yeah, that's like we had a church call up my wife and I 2 months ago, and yeah, they've been around for 100 years. They've never done background checks, never done children's training. And I'm like, oh. And they're like, yeah, we realize this might be a problem. They said, we don't have any standards. Like, we just let people. They said, yeah, we realized we had non-members teaching kids classes. I'm like, listen, this is scary. Hey, listen. And I grew up in the 80s and 90s where I remember us going to a youth activity. Pastor's there with the youth director, and we're there for the lesson. And then pastor looks at the event, turns to us young people and says, young people, I'm sorry to tell you the event they're about to have us play is not safe. The youth pastor and I have talked about it. We are now going to go load up in the van and we're going to go home. I believe there was 21 of us, 2 vans. We were probably 1/4 of the young people at the event. Pastor went to the pastor and youth pastor and said, listen, this is not safe. The event you're going to do is not safe. Someone's going to get hurt. He said, no, it's fine. You're just being an old fuddy-duddy. We got in the buses. We drove home. Listen, that was a very miserable van ride home. But when we found out the next day that a kid got seriously hurt, all of us looked at our pastor and said, okay, yeah, we'll follow you. Hey, listen, every event we do here is safe. Someone came and said, Pastor, there's this really cool game. I saw it on TikTok. It's called Chubby Bunny. We don't play that game. You don't know what it is? It's a game where they shove a bunch of food in their mouth. We don't do shoving food in your mouth games. You know why? Because kids choke. It's just not, well, it's a fun game. Safe. Scriptural. Safe. Well, kids got to have fun. Listen, there is 1,000 million gazillion games that are safe. Find one. Pick those ones. We have an AED machine in our nursery. That's an artificial electric defibrillator machine in our church nursery because we want everything to be safe. Sometimes we don't play, I had a youth pastor come in and say, Pastor Joe, we're doing a lock-in. How many know what a lock-in is? It's an all-night teen activity. So we're doing a lock-in. Are you coming? No. I do not believe them to be safe. As a church, pastor does not believe them to be safe. We don't do them. So listen, every one of your youth pastor friends within 15 miles of you, or sorry, 50 miles, within 150 miles, are coming to this event. It's the largest in the state. Great. Have fun, guys. Well, no one got hurt last year, and great. Maybe no one will get hurt this year. I just don't believe it's safe. I don't believe that 400 teens inside of a building locked in all night long is a safe plan. It's just not something I believe. And if you want to do it, fine. Have fun. Not here, though. Where do we safe? We were at the IFBF meeting this last Tuesday. Me and Jeff were there. We're talking about something, and one of the young people said, hey, Pastor Joe, he's another young person. He said, hey, listen, my family went to Cedar Point. Does your church go to Cedar Point? I said, we don't go to Cedar Point as a church anymore. So why not? I said, because it's just not safe anymore. So what do you mean it's not safe? I said, no, Cedar Point's safe. It's not safe for me to take teens there anymore because teens don't obey non-parents. And teens like to sneak off. In the 80s and 90s, teens would kind of do that, but they still stayed. Nowadays, it's such a miserable... I said, listen, we now say it's a family event. And hey, if you want to go ahead. Listen, if Susan Thompson wants to take Emma, go ahead, have fun, take her. But as a church, we're just not going to do that. Not unless I can get 20 adults to go with the 40 teens. Because I want 2 teens to every 1 adult. Because that's the rule. And since, by the way, Virgil doesn't want to do that. Virgil, are we with me here, right? Dick, you don't want to go. So listen, there's a way to make it happen, but since I can't make it safe, we're not going to do it. On that mark, we do got to make a couple things safe. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. When we take kids to the restroom, this is something that had been kind of faltering a little bit. Someone has to stand in the door. Someone has to stand in the door. This morning, it was kind of a weird change service and all these different things. And so a couple of the kids went into the bathroom, and the worker was guarding the other door, but there wasn't someone watching the other door. And the kids went in the bathroom, overflowed the toilets, flooded the whole men's bathroom. Now, thankfully, I got a church phone call 2 minutes later. Took the church phone call. The hallway was full, so I stepped into the bathroom to see the whole bathroom. It was great. Now, about 5 minutes later, it might not have been so great, right? So I'm walking. How many this morning in pastor's class saw me like walking back and forth, making laps, okay? That's what I was doing, okay? By the way, Jerry Pryor walks in that bathroom and slips and falls, we'll never forgive ourselves. If Eli, my son, runs into that bathroom real quick because he has to go to the bathroom, slips and falls, we'll never forgive ourselves. So that's a safety thing. If you say, well, I'm a lady, I can't go in the boys' bathroom. You're right. Go get the head usher. Have the head usher go into the boys' bathroom. Well, it's going to take longer. You're right, but it's safe. I can't find him. Start yelling. No, don't start yelling. Just go find him, right? Have the kids stand at the wall. Go find him. Listen, these are just some small things. Now, listen, it's Evelyn. I trust Evelyn. You're right. Evelyn's the only exception to that rule. No, I'm just kidding. You still have to send someone in there because someone has to be there and has to make certain. Or let's say, for instance, Virgil's there and it's a bunch of young ladies and they all go to the restroom. Well, after all the young ladies are done from the restroom and they leave the restroom, Virgil then knocks on the door and says, hey, is anyone in the bathroom? Hey, I have to do a check of the bathroom. Is anyone in the bathroom? Okay, no one's in the bathroom? Okay, then you pick your head in the door real quick and make certain the sinks aren't stuffed up and water's flowing over. Because I understand, kids aren't trying to be evil. Okay, some kids aren't trying to be evil. What they're trying to do is have fun, and it's just fun. And they don't see the damage of it. So help us help them, right? That's a safety thing. Also another safety thing. We got to help kids go from classroom to classroom, okay? When they go to classroom, we have to bring them there, and then you have to bring them, and then you have to hand them off. This is actually an insurance thing, and it's also part of state requirements for like daycares and other things, which churches are in a weird spot. We aren't a daycare, we aren't a school, but we take care of children, and so we look like in the same area, but we don't get the same protection. It's just weird, okay? So if Judy's teaching a class and she has kids, her job is to take the kids from where child is and then walk child from where child is to the next person and pretend they're like this hymnal, walk them in. If Walt's teaching that class, literally, they got to be in Walt's hands. It's not in Walt's hands yet, I'm not leaving. Till Walt takes it, I can't leave. Now it's Walt's problem. Then I can leave. I'll take it back. Thank you, Walt. But that's how the handoff has to happen. Well, listen, it's fine. You guys saying, I got to go do this next thing, and I understand Marty will be there in 2 minutes. Yeah, Marty may be there in 2 minutes, but the thing you got to do, that you think Marty might get stuck with her thing, and then all of a sudden we have 7 children over here going, hey, let's see if we can climb up the wall. Hand them off. Hand them off. If you can't hand them off, then listen, how many know that you know who most of the children's workers in the church are? So Judy needs to hand them off. Marty's not there. Okay? Then look over and say, hey, Dana, could you sit with my kids for a minute till Marty comes here? I have to do something. And then come back and check. Don't leave poor Dana there. Dana can tell you, she's been here a long time. There's many a time I've come in there and Dana goes, I'm still here, Pastor Joe. It's just a nice smile face. She doesn't mind. But someone was supposed to come for those children an hour ago. And she's still in that room like, hey, I'm in the nursery. So someone was going to come back from choir. They promised. It was going to happen. So don't do that. Go check and make certain the next person should. It has to be safe. Next thing that has to be safe is we have to check the records. Rosters are getting a little sloppy here at the Community Baptist Church. Don't let your roster get sloppy. That's a legal document. It's legal. One day, someone may accuse our wonderful friend Dee of doing a heinous crime to a child. I hope they never do, but understand, that's our world we live in today. And that record that is those rosters might be the only thing that keeps her from going to jail. How many understand that? What I'm saying right now is this actually happened at a church an hour from here. A child accused an adult of doing something, and because the church had beautiful, well-maintained records, they walked in and said, here's proof the kid didn't come to church for 6 months at that time period. And the judge said, throw it out. Understand, if they did not have those records, that person is probably in jail today. Fill out the record sheets. Well, I don't know where my roster is. Oh, we'll get it next time. No. Get it today. Well, listen, we had this new kid right here. Yeah, Walt, you're up front, so you get used to that. His name's Walt. That's fine. I'm just going to put Walt down. No. Go ask Walt what his name is. Get the correct spelling of his name. But we're so busy in class today. Not that busy. Get their name, fill it out, get it in there. By the way, it's also a great time if they know it. They're a kid over the age of 8. Say, hey, can I get your phone number from your parents so I can put it down on the sheet here? All that information. It's just, well, listen, we're so busy in class. And I understand we're so busy. We're not that busy. We've never had someone have this happen here at the church. But we could. We could. So let's make certain we keep everything above board. Now, by the way, some of you go, oh, Pastor Joe, does this mean we were fit? No, we're not failures or anything. I'm just saying they're getting a little sloppy. So let's raise the bar up a little bit. How many understand what you care about is what you do well, right? I'm so grateful. Rosie's taken over the secretary job for Pastor's Adult Believers class today. She came to me and said, Pastor Joe, I don't know these names. The class is over. What do I do? She didn't leave. She said, listen, I don't know them. Listen, we're not leaving her. She stayed around like 15 minutes waiting for me to say, I need these names. That's for an adult class. We need to be that diligent in children's classes. Get the names, fill them out, hand the rosters in. Dave Comstock does our secretary for our Sunday school hour. Wednesday nights, Marty is taking care of Wednesday nights. Marty on Wednesday nights takes care of the entire Master Club roster. Was it 2 weeks ago, Josh? We had a visitor come in. They came through another door. And so I sent you to Marty. Said, go tell Marty we had another kid come in the class. Here's the name. Here's the spelling. Please go give it to Marty. That's how diligent we have to be. Let's be diligent on it. Let's keep our workers safe. Speaking of safe, don't be alone with children. Don't do it. But listen, it's sweet, sweet little Billy. And I've known sweet little Billy for a while. Great, I'm glad. But the other people of this world don't know that you know sweet little Billy. And all you need is one accusation. And I understand, when I teach this, then there's two sides that happen. As I teach it, some people go, okay, good. I'm going to now be careful, safe, and happy. Then there's the other side that goes, children, run! Don't do that, okay? Listen, the other day, there's a couple little girls in our church who love hugs, and they constantly try to hug me. And they constantly try to hug me, try to catch me off guard and hug me. How many have noticed this happen at the church? And they try to do it because I tell them, you're not allowed to hug me. Well, I love you, Pastor. I'm so glad you love me. But if everyone in the church knows that I don't hug little girls who aren't my kids or my family, it's a whole lot easier to believe that Pastor Joe never is going to do anything inappropriate with a little kid. Let's keep the boundaries high. It's fine. I'll high-five you. I'll handshake you, fist bump you, pat you on the head. If one of them does catch me off guard, I'm always like this. Oh, thank you very much. Pat your head. Now, please let go of me. Please let go of me. Thank you very much. That works so much better. Let's be safe, okay? Well, kids need hugs. You're right. As a counselor and Christian counselor, I have it all. It is 100% needed. However, it is no longer safe. It's not. Don't take kids to your home without permission. You're picking kids up, always have 2 adults in the car. Somebody says they're just safe things. They're just things to keep you safe. Finally, super. Children's ministry should be super here at the Community Baptist Church. What do you mean by that, Pastor Joe? I mean, it should be super. It should be super fun. It should be super exciting. It should be super great. It should be all those things. Listen, I have sat in Sunday school classes as a kid where I literally turned to my brother at the end and said, it would have been better if someone would have driven a nail through my head than if I have to listen through another one of these lessons. How many have ever been in a Sunday school class where it was super boring, right? You're like, oh, great. I mean, we had this one lady who was a sub in the church when I was a kid, and when someone was sick, my brother and I dreaded it. She was the meanest grouch of an old lady. She just was. She'd come into the class, and she hated children. I don't know what she was doing in children's ministry. I really don't. And like, I remember one day we told my dad this. My dad's like, listen, she's not supposed to teach. She's supposed to be like an assistant. But there was this nice lady in the church, whenever she would come and say, oh, you can come teach today for me. And Pastor always like, don't let him teach. No, listen, you teach. She can't teach. And I remember sitting there, and we were always like, listen, this class isn't fun when she's there. Make class super. Make the game super. Study your lessons far in advance. Study the games far in advance. Have fun stuff. If you're in the teen ministry, and I keep using Josh and James because they're in class, we have a new game in teen class at least every other month. Would you not agree? We have a lot of new games. Constantly bringing new games in. And then they find a game they like, we let them play it till they're just about bored with it, and we kill it, and then we don't play it for months. Listen, new, exciting, fun. Bring in songs. Bring in music. Listen, the Oh How I Love Jesus can be exciting to a kid if you make it exciting to a kid. Your lessons can be exciting to kids if you make it exciting to kids. So make it exciting to kids. The nursery should be exciting, not because of kids having stomach aches or screaming, but because you have fun stuff for the nursery. Hey, listen, nursery workers, sing to the little kids. Nursery workers, it is perfectly exciting if you guys came in there and said, listen, we're going to have a Bible lesson every single week in the nursery. We're going to take a little Bible story book and we're going to teach the stories of the Bible. Listen, hey, Quinn is not even 1 year old yet. He won't know. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He'll learn. Teach him the little songs. Teach him the hand motions. Hey, listen, this is funny. If you have a grandkid over and they're under 1 year old, you'll sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star to them. How about we sing Jesus Loves Me to them? Yeah. In the nursery, we need to, in every class, we need to have singing as part of class. Have prayer requests. Make it super. Hey, listen, in our classes, we should be telling the kids about answers of prayer that happened in our lives. Hey, this answer of prayer, it's so awesome. Listen, we can pray here. Do you understand the God of all the universe is going to quiet the angels of all of heaven to hear this prayer right now? Let them pray. Let the class be super. Let the lessons be super. Let it be super. The Bible says, he that getteth wisdom loveth his own soul, and he that keepeth understanding shall find good. We have a lot in this children's workers handbook that needs to be important. Let's go through these real quick. How can we make our lessons super? Apply our organization screening process to all current workers and new applicants. No exceptions. We've always done that. No one works in children's ministry without having these things done. Enlist supervisors who have special training. All of our security officers have special training. That's our head usher in the back. Every one of them have special training that we have given them as to how to work with different people. Appoint supervisors who can maintain control in a group. If there's a problem in Master Club, here's how the rules work. For all the Master Club workers, I don't even have to say it because they already know how it goes. You first go to the lead teacher. If the lead teacher can't handle it, then you go to the sub, which is usually Jeff. If Jeff can't handle it, then you go to the secretary, Marty. If Marty can't handle it, then you go to Jason. If Jason can't handle it, come get Pastor Joe. And it's the order it goes through. And by the way, I know if I'm in teen class and Josh is sitting across from me and Marty knocks on my door, and it's great. She has a smile on her face. Pastor Joe, I'm going to come sit in your class now. I know it's about to get exciting for my day. A couple weeks ago, we had something where we happened on that Wednesday night, and they're like, hey, Pastor Joe, we need you in the back. Great. By the way, know who your supervisor is. If you're in any class, the head usher in the back or the head security is your immediate supervisor. You report it to them, then they report it up, and it goes up the chain. After them, it usually goes me. Well, pastor is the senior pastor, and correct. All problems can finally go to him. But let's realize, most services, he's getting ready to preach. So walking up to him and telling him that the bathroom's overflowing 2 minutes before doesn't help him. Come to me, I'll do it. Okay? Provide adequate number of supervisors for every type of activity, age, and number of participants. Every teen activity, we make certain we have the exact amount of workers to the number of teens we have. Example, like we said, Cedar Point, I believe it's 2-1. Summer camp, as we'll tell you, because we have other workers from the camp, we go usually 1-10. This summer, it was 1-10. Kyla, me, Jeff. 30 kids, 3 workers. We want those different numbers. We make those numbers on purpose. Do you have enough? Well, that's a great question. Here's the list. It's in our Children's Workers Handbook. These are the numbers that you should know. If you have more than this in your class, you look around and you go, wait a second. I'm in the preschoolers, and we have 28 in the preschoolers today, and there's just 2 of us. You're outnumbered. You're done for. You're toast. I'm in the nursery, and we have 6 infants. You're in trouble. There's only 2 scheduled for that hour. You better go get Dana and tell her you'll be back in 2 minutes. Actually get Dana and let her stay in the room. Someone today said, Pastor Joe, who's our subs? We have a children's worker sheet that we print up and we put on the walls. On those walls, it tells you who's the teacher, and then it also gives a sub. So if the person doesn't show up, go to the next worker. That worker's not there, go to the next worker. If you cannot find any of those workers, come find me. If you can't find me, find Kyla. If you can't find Kyla, find Pastor. And that's how we fill these different spots. Speaking of which, I always hate this moment. I miss Sharon Magyar. I'm so sad to see Sharon Magyar move north. I'm grateful that she's got her dream home, grateful she's found another good church up there. But let me tell you something, Sharon Magyar was great at this. I would get a text message every Sunday if she was going to be gone. And she'd keep texting till she knew I'd gotten the text message. Hey, that's what we need. Do not miss without letting us know. Today, Wanda Fitz, she was sick. She tried to text me. Instead, she texted the wrong person. She had her husband come to church and come tell me she wasn't going to be here. Hey, listen, it's important. If you're a worker in the church, let us know. If you're going to be gone, that's fine. Great. That's fine. We're perfectly fine with you being gone, but we got to fill it. Okay? Ask parents to complete an activity participation agreement before children are allowed to participate in any ministry. Any young person that comes on any special activity must fill out one of these forms if they are a minor. No exceptions. That's an activity participation for parent permission slips, what we call it. They have to fill those out. Any special event, we always check the things. We're going to play a game of Capture the Flag out here. Last year we played Capture the Flag. Jeff helped me out there. I said, Jeff, would you go walk the field? Jeff walked the field. Now, the interesting thing was Jeff was the 3rd adult to walk the field. Well, why did you have 3 adults walk the field? I don't want a kid to trip and break their leg. Just safe. Check everything. We're going to use the pavilion. Well, if you're going to use the pavilion, you need to go out to the pavilion, make sure all the tables are clean, make sure they're set up, make sure everything's ready out there, get it all ready before you. Don't show up 15 minutes before and expect everything to be here. The building is used by more than just you. And while most people are really, really good at cleaning up the previous room for the next person, not everyone does it. Sometimes we forget. How many have ever been forgetful? So if you're forgetful, understand that. Be aware of that and be ready for that. Handle all disciplinary problems professionally. This is just simple. We don't touch kids. We do not touch kids. If a kid's a problem and they're becoming violent, we don't touch the kid unless absolutely necessary. And what absolutely necessary means, if a kid is standing over top of another kid, beating up a kid, then we pull the child off the child. How many understand? That's the limit right there, okay? Well, a kid starts to hit me. Block. Don't hit back. Okay? Why do you have to say this, Pastor Joe? Because it still has to be said. Listen, I know someone. They're fine. They don't mind if I just give them a little punch in the shoulder. When they go home and tell their uncle and aunt that you punch them in the shoulder, they aren't going to say you punch them in the shoulder. They're going to say, my teacher hits me at church. Don't hit kids. Disciplinary problems, I recommend the 3-strike rule. Number 1, you get a warning. Number 2, you get moved. Number 3, you're out. Simple and easy. Just run through it. Works great. Give rewards first. Try to help them go through that way. Supervisor teachers should explain all the rules to participants before any activity begins. For any class, have the rules. For years, the kids at the Community Baptist Church got my 5 rules for every single class. Now it's gotten so ingrained in most of the kids, I don't even have to do it every week. I do it usually once a month. 5 rules for my class are quite simple. Final rule always is no cannibalism. How many have ever heard this rule series before, right? Why do you do that? Because they're going to remember it. Cannibalism is a way for them to remember the rules. They all remember the rules. Oh, by the way, if ever it was to go to a court of law, which I don't think it would, can I tell you something? When the kids are asked were the rules properly explained before the class, do you know what they'll say? Yes, they were. Because not a single person who's going to be in the room who's going to forget that I said no cannibalism. I gave all the rules. The final rule was no cannibalism. Keep your hands to yourself. No talking when I'm talking. Sit, listen, and learn. All those things. Give them the rules. Supervisors are to report all injuries. If there's an injury, you must fill out an injury report that service. Must. Hand it in. Kid get in. Now, I'm not talking about a boo-boo. I'm talking about kid slips and falls. Anything like that, anything beyond the fact of just, owie. We need an injury report put out this way we know what happened, know why it happened. If you need a paper for it, please let us know. Supervisors, at least 2 workers must be present at every function involving children. This includes classrooms or rooms. If you need to leave the room, please make certain that you have the workers there. Counseling. When workers meet with individuals, spiritual counseling, we encourage a team counseled by two adults. If you don't have 2 adults at the moment, go to a spot where more than 2 adults be. How many have ever seen us? We have like a bunch of kids. We'll send you into a room, and we'll have 1 worker with 2 kids, and we'll have another worker with 2 kids, and then you'll have someone like me standing there watching the whole thing, right? So always have multiple adults in the room when you counsel them. Don't go in a room with children alone. Follow all these different things. Continue to go further. Safe, helpful plan. For children 6 or older, adult female should take the girls to the restroom. 1 adult man should take the boys to the restroom. Stand there at the bathroom door. We talked about this earlier. Keep an eye on it. If it's under the age of 5, all children should be taken by a woman to the bathroom. This way, there's just nothing can be said. Follow those plans. Discipline. Workers are never to spank, hit, shake, otherwise physically discipline anyone. Disciplinary problems should be reported to ministry activity quarters at any point of anything that happens. If a child gets in big trouble in your class, do not let the parent find out from the child. Do not let them find out from the child. They should find out from you. Do not send a note. Call them. I don't know their parent. That's a problem. You should know every parent of every single child in the church. Well, that's a lot of children. Yep, you're right. That's part of children's ministry, though. This way, if Charlie or Billy Bob or Susan or Samuel bites someone, then you can go to the parents and say, listen, this person bit someone. Here's how we handled it. We told them not to bite, because Pastor Joe has a no cannibalism rule here at the church. And then this is the recourse we took with them. Boy, how many appreciate when an adult looks you eye to eye and tells you what happened? By the way, it's a great connector point. So make those disciplinary setups the way they did. What happens if an injury or an illness happens? If some kid's sick, don't leave them in the class. Get them help. Move them quickly. Treat them as if you want them to be as you'd want to be treated if you were sick. Any injury must be treated. Record keeping. We talked about this earlier. Make sure you keep your records. What if we see something that looks like a child's been abused, physically assaulted, something like that? That's something important. You need to come talk to me immediately. Here's how it works. Our church is a mandatory reporting station. 1 person does the mandatory reporting. That's the staff of the church. So you come, say Susan sees something she doesn't think is right. She comes into me. We will then go look at the child. Don't come tell me after the service, right? Come tell me then. That's important. You look over and you see a kid and they got this giant wrist bruise mark on them. They got a bruise on the back of their neck. And like, oh yeah, my 6-year-old brother did it. And you're looking at like, yeah, that's not a 6-year-old brother's hand. I need to know then. Let's not send the kid back home, right? We'll follow appropriate steps. We know the state and legal requirements. That's supposed to, remember, we do a 3-hour training video on it. So we'll go through all that. I've met with the Grand Ledge Police, Delta Township Police, Charlotte Police, Potterville Police. We've done it multiple times, Grand Ledge. We just mean different things. So let us help the child, okay? Bring him to us. Listen, I'm going to do it. No. There's legal precedents that must be followed. It's on church grounds. What happens if something does happen eventually at the church and someone says something? There is 1 spokesman for the Community Baptist Church. That is the pastor of the Community Baptist Church. couple years back, a large church had something like this happen, and I watched on the news as on Sunday morning, news cameras stood outside the church and interviewed people, and well-meaning, very nice people sounded like complete and total idiots. Once it becomes a legal issue, let the police and the lawyers and the pastor take care of it. Well, listen, I have something to say. Great. But what you may say may send someone to jail or may stop someone from going to jail who deserves it or doesn't deserve it. How many understand that? I want you to listen, I know this person. They'd never do anything wrong. They had video of the person doing wrong. Then you know what it looks like Christians are crazy. Listen, ask if this ever happens and you get asked, here's the statement. Say a child gets abused. Listen, that is up to the legal issues. We leave it to the lawyers, the police, and the leadership of the church. No further comment. Let me make that sense to everybody? Why are you prepared for this to happen? No, I have no intention of this happening. I don't ever want it to happen. I'm just saying, but because it could happen. Like, I did not plan on mopping up toilet water today inside the men's bathroom. I didn't plan on that. But we do have a plan for it, to bring a fan in, mop the floor up, put signs out. We know those plans. So let us do those plans. Let the lawyers, let our lawyer, David Coleman, who's been before the state Supreme Court, go up there and say, here's what happened. Hey, this child was hurt. It didn't happen at the Community Baptist Church. Well, they found the person who did it, and the Community Baptist Church is a hero. And when the news gets that, that's great. Then when it's all done, then you can go to the new stuff. Let's make certain we keep everything above and beyond reproach. Okay? Continuing on, here we go. Our ministry leaders will promptly notify our ministry's insurance carrier or professional liability insurance upon notice of abuse or molestation. Violations or policy procedures. Let me make this very clear. I've had to do this before. I don't like doing it. If you break the handbook procedures, we will come and give you a warning. If you break a major one, we will just remove you. If you hurt a child, we will send you to jail. And I will be the first person there to testify against you. Everyone, how many agree that that's the way it should be?
Amen.
Okay? So in other words, these rules and handbooks are here for a purpose. Well, I have a better idea. And then you can go find a better church. These are the rules. You must follow them. They are for your safety. They will help you. They will keep you safe. Violation of these policies, we have reason. We have a step for it. You're signing this. You say you agree. What if something goes wrong? We will have an internal investigation. Those can be handled by the church's lawyers. If something needs to be done, someone, let's say, were to accuse pastor, myself, or anyone else, we'd invite an outside counsel to come in. They'd investigate the whole thing. They'd do the whole thing. It'd be above reproach. It'd be all set. All those things are all set up. This is all the handbook. It's why we have it there. Dealing with enforcement media's news, we talked about that earlier. Annual review. Every year we have an annual review. That's what we're doing right now. We talk it over. If you have any questions at any point, you come talk to us. Let us know what's going on in your mind. Let us know what's going on in children's ministry. This morning, one of our workers came and said, Pastor Joe, I'm missing this, this, and this. I said, when do you need it? I need it in 2 weeks. Okay, it'll be ordered. And it'll be ordered. Let's make sure everything is the best it can be. This way no one can have anything that happens. Revision of policies and procedures. The leadership of this church with legal counsel does give the right to review these things. We did add 1 or 2 things to this year. How many notice that some of the things are different this year? Updating with policies. We have a new insurance company called Guide One. It's now the largest. Brotherhood Mutual was the largest. Guide One is now the largest. We switched to Guide One. And Guide One had a couple things they recommended, and we did those things that day. They walked in, said, change that. All of them were changed within an hour. That's how important we believe safety and security to be. The purpose of this handbook is to assist the greatest workers in the world, the members of the Community Baptist Church of Lansing. I believe that. I believe I serve with godly, wonderful children's workers who want the best for children. The following information was used by permission by Brotherhood Mutual. Brotherhood Mutual helped us write this from Fiedler's Insurance back a few years ago. We showed it to Guide One, and Guide One says, here's the 3 things we recommend change. Beyond that, keep it exactly as is. We believe that this is here to help you and to make this children's ministry the best it can. Listen, we want it to be super. Give away candy. A couple weeks ago, I loved it. I think it was Ruth came and said, Pastor Joe, it's coming up here soon. Do you mind if I give away bags of candy? What is the rule on me giving away bags of candy? That's a great question. Here's the thing. I don't want this. I do want this. Great. Okay, great. Thanks. Questions are good. Don't assume. Let's move forward. We want to keep kids safe. We want things to be great. Let's make certain those things are there. Now, thank you for coming tonight. I know some of this is heavy. How many find some parts of this heavy? It's a little heavy sometimes. How many find the other parts fun? It's good, right? You can talk about I'm super getting kids saved. But listen, we do this once a year this way. We can then say we've got all of these things set. That workers know what's going on. That children will be safe. How many are grateful for a church that takes one full Sunday night every year just to go over a children's workers handbook to make sure kids are safe? Listen, it's important. It's so important. Help us follow these rules. If you do not remember the handbook and you haven't read it in a while, please come get a copy. We have them. We don't want to waste paper. I don't want to print up 50 of them if you're just going to take them and throw them away. But if you remember all this, yep, I'm good. Fill out that paper right now as we close the service together. If you are said, I'm all good with it, go ahead and fill out the renewal paper. I'm going to have my friend, Bob Stephenson. If you don't mind, Bob, I remember a couple years ago turning to me and said he hated taking that video. Remember that video? Bob turned me in and Bob looked and said, Pastor Joe, if you never make me do this again, it'd be too soon. And so grateful for Bob and his help throughout the years. But then again, I remember Bob going with me that year to winter camp. Do you remember that, Bob? And we're sitting there at winter camp, and Bob looked at me, and he was talking to one of the other churches. I don't know if you remember this conversation, Bob. And he was talking about how all the stuff he had to do to go. And one of the guys go, man, I didn't have to do anything to come to this thing. And Bob looked at him and said, well, that's a shame for your church. I thought, what a great testimony for our church. Hey, listen, no, our church goes above and beyond. By the way, that church a couple years later contacted me, Bob, to get our paperwork. Nice. So listen, we want to be that church. We want to be safe. We want everyone to know that the Lord's work is the highest standard. We want every daycare in the area to go, yeah, that church is safe. This week I was calling Susan Grace's friends because we have references. If you want to be a new worker, we have references. So I called up her friend, and her friend, this is their second comment, Susan, was for your friend Crystal. She said, Pastor, I love that a church you actually call. You actually call to check on every worker? I said, yes, every worker. We call the references on every worker. Because we want to know. It's that important. So thank you for being a part of this. Go ahead, fill out that paper, the front and the back. When you're done, I'll have Bob stand right there at the back door. Please hand it to Bob. Bob will then take it, and he will put it in my office on my desk. But I want to thank you again. I went a little bit over tonight because I had a few extra points I wanted to make because I didn't want to split this into 2 weeks. I wanted to do this in 1 week. I do appreciate your listening so well. Hand that paperwork in. I may have to contact you if something on there looks a little different, but this allows you to work with children here at the Community Church. If you don't work with children, then you do not need to fill this out. You just need to be knowledgeable about this practice. Say, I don't work with kids, I don't work in classes anymore, then you're fine. You don't need to fill it out, but if you do, please fill out that paper. Let's go ahead and let's have a closing word of prayer. We'll have no offertory tonight, just a closing word of prayer. While we pray, how about you pray that God will help you be the children's worker you need to be for our ministry to go forward. I'll have Eli, one of our kids. Go ahead, Eli. Go ahead and lead us in a word of prayer. Then, Glory, you can close us. Thank you, sir. Glory Ann.
Dear Lord, thank you for helping the children take over and help everything to go good tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon.
Amen. Thank you for joining us tonight. You are dismissed. Choir, go ahead and meet up here in 3 minutes. We'll start our choir practice and our musical practice in 3 minutes. Everyone else, you are dismissed.
Is it okay to turn this on later?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you have the whole handbook. So yeah, you have some time. Yeah, we would like to. We're not very like this. Maybe do you a picture? Right now or like after?